Hello, this is Dr. Paul Cottrell, and I'm doing this recording on October 18th. We're going to go over the news, and I'm going to go over some of the great products and how to stack them to improve your health and wellness. Thank you for joining. I greatly appreciate it. If you like the content that I provide, that's all free. I have thousands of videos for free for you to learn from. You can donate on my website, the-studio-reykjavik.com. You can donate through Stripe, PayPal, or Buy Me a Coffee on the homepage. You can also be a paid member to my Patreon channel or my Substack. That's a great way to help support the work that I do. In addition, I have great products. I have ebooks, I have supplements, and I have course material on immunology and pulmonology. You can also follow me on YouTube, on Rumble, on Bitchute, on Brighteon. You can also follow me on X and GETTR, TikTok. I have audio versions of my show on Podomatic and Apple Podcast. You can also listen to my shows live on my website or the audio recordings under broadcast, radio, or live. So please watch the different materials that I have out there, and please help support the work that I do. Some of the great products that I offer on the store that you should be getting for the fall and the winter are the structural nanosilver soaps. You can get it in lavender. You can also get it in peppermint, lemongrass, and charcoal tea tree. These structural nanosilver soaps are very high quality. Use them every day throughout the year, but especially during the fall and the winter. Why? Because it has structural nanosilver. You're going to need that for the fall and the winter. Use discount 5 and you get $5 off any order. Another great supplement that I have that you should be getting for the fall and the winter, or product, I should say, is the structural nanosilver toothpaste. This toothpaste has no fluoride. It has the structural nanosilver. It will help to improve the health of your oral cavity. It will whiten your teeth, freshen your breath, reduce inflammation at the gum line, and help the health of the gum line. This is really important. Having good oral hygiene throughout many years will improve your longevity in terms of oral health into your geriatric years. By having good oral hygiene, it's going to reduce vascular issues or valvular issues. In addition, by using the structural nanosilver toothpaste in the fall and the winter, you're going to be able to neutralize. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get this toothpaste, especially for the fall and the winter. You're going to need it because this fall and winter is going to be a problem. And if you've been paying attention to the news, you know what I'm talking about. And structural nanosilver lozenges. I have elderberry zinc in stock. You get 21 in each bag. And I also have structural nanosilver
across the country. Now there is less than 3 weeks away from when New Yorkers will take to the ballot.
I also have structural nanosilver drops. You can get it in cherry flavor, in blueberry, and also in honey and lemon. These are very high quality drops and lozenges made from structural nanosilver. Take them right when you have that throat irritation. You're going to need this for the fall and the winter. So get a few bags for your household. Have some at home. Have some at work. Take them right away to mitigate the problem. But this is really important. Super important to have. Be prepared. Please go to my store. Use discount 5, all caps, discount 5, and you get $5 off any order. But be prepared for the fall and the winter. Okay, we're going to go to Fox Business talking about the debate that was going on for the mayoral race for New York.
A major decision for the Big Apple with major implications across the country. Now there is less than 3 weeks away from when New Yorkers will take to the ballot box to vote for or against socialist policies. Zoran Mamdani, Andrew Cuomo, and Curtis Sliwa facing off for the first time in the fight to become New York City's next mayor. Both Wall Street and Main Street listening as the frontrunner, a Democrat socialist, outlined his far-left proposals on taxes and handouts.
New York City is the global headquarters of the finance industry. So how would you be the mayor of Wall Street and the DSA? You have 1 minute.
I would be the mayor of this entire city. And that means ensuring that the wealth that we generate in this city is also wealth that every single New Yorker can actually feel in their pockets. Making buses fast and free costs about $700 million a year. Making universal childcare a reality costs about $5 or $6 billion a year. I've put forward 2 proposals. The first is to raise taxes on the top 1% of New Yorkers by 2%. That would raise $4 billion. The second is to raise the state's top corporate tax rate to match that of New Jersey, which would raise $5 billion.
Mamdani is still the lead. Mamdani is still the leading candidate in this race by double digits. In the latest Fox News polls, he has 52% among likely voters. Cuomo coming in at 28%, and Sliwa is polling at 14%. Joining me now is New York Congresswoman Claudia Tenney. Congresswoman, it's great to see you.
Great to see you too.
Your reaction to the debate and this race right now?
Yeah, this is going to be a bellwether event, and I'm very concerned. Obviously, as a New Yorker, a lifelong New Yorker, New York City affects not just the region, but upstate New York as well. And these policies that are coming from Mamdani, this radical idealism that's really socialism, Marxism, is going to affect New York City and will negatively affect upstate. He's talking about, oh, it's only $5 billion here and $5 billion there. That's going to be real money, and we already are seeing enormous budget, enormous unfunded mandates and liabilities with New York State. If New York City adds even more to that, that's going to be a real problem for all of New York. And remember, this guy's a New York State Assemblyman, so he has policies that no one's really talking about that are very far left, very socialist, and it never works. And we've tried this in New York. If you want to look at a blueprint for how not to operate a state, look at New York. High out migration. We once had 45 congressional seats. That's real clout in Washington in the 60s. We're down to 26. We're going to lose even more. So this kind of policy is really dangerous. And to think that the largest city in the United States is going to have a communist running it with idealism, never run anything, a young guy who obviously is charismatic, but he's running around with AOC and Bernie Sanders. It's insane.
When I spoke with President Trump this week, I felt like he was on the fence about whether or not to get involved. Should he endorse Cuomo? Should he endorse Sliwa? What should he do? He wouldn't make a commitment on that. But I wonder what you think about the outcome of this race's impact on the midterm elections. Because I feel like some Republicans feel like, well, you know what? I'm ready to sacrifice New York. Let Mamdani take it because I know that it's going to be better for the Republicans in 2026. Do you think there's a feeling out there about that?
Absolutely, and that's probably true, but I don't want to sacrifice New York. This
I
is where I live. This is where my family is. This is where our business has been for generations. This is where a lot of people have stayed in New York and have weathered the storm of high taxes, high regulatory burden, high wages, now high energy costs, an absurd energy policy. New York City is going to suffer the most, but what are they going to do? They're going to exact that pain on upstate New York, where we have agriculture and a lot of industry that are critical to our state's economy.
Your district really does get impacted in all of this. Look, I want to get your take on this government shutdown because Senate Democrats once again blocked the passage of a government funding bill for a 10th time in a row. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent is slamming their refusal to come to the table and warning that the shutdown is going to start costing the U.S. economy up to $15 billion a day. I spoke with President Trump about the stalemate on Capitol Hill. Watch this.
I mean, they made one mistake. They didn't realize that that gives me the right to cut programs that Republicans never wanted, you know, giveaways, welfare programs, etc. And we're doing that, and we're cutting them permanently. We're cutting a $20 billion project that Schumer fought for 15 years to get, and I'm cutting the project.
What is the impact of this shutdown? How much longer can we go like this?
Well, look, they're hurting everyone. President Trump is trying to make this happen. You've heard everyone. We talk about the troops, you know, finding a way to get them paid, and the Democrats actually threatening to sue while he's trying to pay the troops. How cruel is that? My son's an active duty Marine. Obviously, that impacts my family, but families all across the nation. You know, helping with the WIC program, and now President Trump is looking for ways to keep our government open. But he's also saying, look, there are programs that are a waste. And one of the things that I think he's not talking about that's important is we have many unauthorized programs that still get funded that have no mission left. And that's huge waste in the government. And those are places we're going to look at to try to find ways to do this funding gap. But the Democrats don't care. It's all politics over people all day. It's all about power. They don't care how much pain they inflict. And I come from New York. I worked for these people. I came from the state legislature. I know how they enforce and impose laws. I think it's just ironic they're doing a No Kings rally.
Yeah.
They grow the administrative state, which suffocates freedom, suffocates rights, and causes dictatorships from the top, like we have in New York. New York is dictated by the far left, by the Democrat. The Governor Hochul has no say. She has veto-proof majorities run by people like Mamdani. They're the tail wagging the dog, these socialists. And so what are they doing? They're authoritarians. And you always look at what they're projecting. That's who they are. And that's what President Trump is saying. Look, I care about the taxpayers, not just in New York, but around the country.
Yeah.
We have, as you know, you hear this on your show every day. We're taking in $5 trillion out of our revenues, the largest in our history, and spending $7 trillion. That is not sustainable.
Right.
We can't do that. We've got to find ways to make an efficient government. We've got to keep our troops going. And this is impacting readiness. It's impacting our economy. And I think it's deliberate. They're trying to hurt our economy so that all the good things that we passed in the working families tax cuts and the good work we've been doing on rescissions and other things don't have a good impact and solid impact on our economy. They don't care.
Yeah, it's affecting readiness. Well, we've got real adversaries out there, and you're looking at tensions with China, for example, spiking. Beijing imposing even tighter controls on rare earth minerals and warning against decoupling. Here's what the president said about all of that, the relationship between Xi Jinping and China and the U.S. Watch.
We'll see what happens with China. I've always had a great relationship with them, as you know. They're always looking for an edge. You know, they ripped off our country for years. I don't know what's going to happen. I can't tell you. We're going to meet in a couple of weeks.
If you put that 100% tariff on top of what's in place already, you've got a 157% tariff on China. Can that stand?
No.
What is that going to do to the economy?
It's not sustainable, but that's what the number is. I think we're going to be fine with China, but we have to have a fair deal.
Those comments turning Mark.
Our delay is 1/5 of a second. Low latency makes the TV show just like it was when the truck was sitting at the stadium. Whether we're 600 feet away or 600 miles away, there's not much difference. Are you sign here?
No.
What?
Those comments turning markets around on Friday. The Dow was down before we released that statement, and then it turned things around. What's your sense on this fight with China when it comes to things that we need for our military? Rare earth minerals.
Yeah, well, we've been having this fight for a long time. Obviously, China is more than an adversary. In many ways, they're an enemy. I serve in the intelligence committee. They're an enemy. Trust me, they are not interested in helping the United States. They're interested in a long-term global domination. That's why you see them all over Africa. I just got back from South America. But President Trump is leading with strength. And that's why it's so important that we get the government back open. We have the economy rolling. We get back to our defense and some of the great innovations that our own companies are producing here that are being stalemated by continuing resolutions. We have to get back to regular order. The Republicans are doing everything they can to get to regular order, to make sure that we are producing what we need to produce and get the technologies up tomorrow, AI, all these things that are happening that our military excels at. We're holding them up from doing that because Chuck Schumer's rambling on about opposing Trump, no Kings rallies, and that's all it's about. Democrats were polled. 1% of Democrats think that healthcare is a top issue for them. So this is a fake issue they're creating because it's the old rail. Let's go after them on what we're good at. They're not good at, closing the border, dealing with criminal illegal aliens, dealing with crime in our communities, getting our military back. And then if they oppose President Trump actually trying to use some of that research and development money to help our troops, think of what that look is to our enemies. Think of China, Russia, all these countries saying, the Democrats aren't serious. And we're deadly serious. We have a strong leadership in the White House. We have a great speaker. We have a strong leader in the Senate. We just need some like-minded Democrats to really care about our country and move us forward.
Unbelievable that only 2 Democrats and 1 independent actually voted with Republicans.
Absolutely.
To keep the government open. Great to see you. Thanks,
Thanks.
Congresswoman. We will be watching all of the developments. Congresswoman Claudia Tenney.
Mr. Mamdani, this is a centerpiece of your campaign. Can you explain how you will make buses free? You have 30 seconds to answer.
Absolutely. We will make buses free by replacing the revenue that the MTA currently gets from buses.
Zoran, boy, your fantasies are never going to come about in terms of funding everything you want that's going to be free, free, free. It's a fantasy. Let's deal with the reality.
The Assemblyman's whole plan is based on a myth. He's gonna raise taxes, Albany's gonna raise taxes statewide on corporations, but the money's only gonna go to New York City. That could never happen. It's not just that the governor wouldn't support it, it's impossible.
Joining us now live on set is the Republican candidate for New York City Mayor, Curtis Sliwa. Curtis, thanks for joining us.
Oh, my pleasure.
James wanted to do the whole show with you.
Ideally.
Sorry, we couldn't do it now.
You may be our only hope to save this city. It seems to me, it's pretty clear from the polls that either you or Andrew Cuomo needs to drop out to allow the possibility of defeating Mamdani and all of his crazy ideas.
Well, why not Andrew Cuomo? He lost the debate last night. I won. That was the clear consensus.
Okay, Cuomo says that you recently sent him a letter. He said he didn't open it. Were you saying drop out, Andrew?
No. What I did was I visited his huge establishment where he lives, apologized to the voices of the seniors. These are the 15,000 elderly who died because of his executive order.
Okay.
And I was outside. And remember, this is when Elise Stefanik and Mike Lawler had written a letter to RFK Jr. and to Dr. Oz and said, did he or did he not follow the CDC guidelines? Because he's perjured himself. He's under investigation.
His COVID record is appalling. So many abuses. But he said he didn't open the letter. It's with his doorman, apparently. But have you considered calling him and saying, get out?
No, I said it publicly last night after the debate. He was within earshot. He really failed in his responsibility to change up. Remember, this is the same debate that he lost in the Democratic primary twice. So he promised he would be a renewed, reinvigorated Andrew Cuomo. It's the same old Andrew Cuomo. He's not going to win. And the only way you beat Zoran Mamdani is out in the streets in the areas that he did well. Andrew has vacated those areas. I'm in those areas. We have a get out the vote effort. That's how you win an election. And Andrew Cuomo, his problem is he was rejected by his own party, but he doesn't understand the meaning of no in so many ways.
Larry Kudlow says that you should have called Zoran Fidel last night. I laugh, but clearly the voters, not just in New York City, but everywhere, and we can look at the Fox News polls, crime is the biggest problem facing New York City. And Zoran Mamdani gets decent marks on how he would handle crime, but explain what would happen to this city and how quickly it would happen if he was elected mayor with this left-wing lunatic bunch of people on the city council.
Well, first of all, whoever did this poll, Zoran gets 40% of the people saying he'd do a better job than me in fighting crime. What did they solicit? Pimps, prostitutes, shoplifters, gangbangers, drive-by shooters. Come on, where did they do this poll? Everybody knows that he is a friend of the criminal, that he is not a protector of the victims. If you don't know anything about Curtis Lee, one thing you know, I'm Mr. Law and Order, I'm Rudy Giuliani 2.0. Who did this poll?
Well, okay, so Fox News did the poll, and since we're in the Fox building,
Yeah. I can challenge them.
Hey, people feel what they feel.
I didn't say that, but
Okay, so the free stuff, free buses, free childcare, free lots of stuff allegedly. He also has another thing. He wants to make society free of billionaires. If he actually succeeds in doing that in New York, this city's budget would collapse.
I know, but he'd have to get rid of his two buddies, the father and son, the Soros boys, who have certainly given him a lot of money to run in his campaign. So don't believe any of that. These billionaires who are, always trying to urge me to drop out. They try to urge me to drop out when Cuomo lost. Drop out for Eric Adams. Yeah, how did that work out? Drop out now for Cuomo. These billionaires are already meeting with him. They're back Charlie with Zoran Mamdani. They got it figured out. They're hedge fund guys. The people who have no other resolve are the people I represent as a populist Republican, the blue collar working class. All their money is invested in the house. Those are the people I'm concerned about. Billionaires are not concerned about that.
Somebody, before we go, somebody said to me earlier today, they said, if he becomes Mamdani, if he becomes mayor, he doesn't have that much power. Not that much is gonna change. What do you say to that? I was shouting at the person as the individual walked away, and I was like, but what do you say to that?
Well, that is so ridiculous. That person couldn't be more hopelessly wrong. First of all, the judges are all progressives. The DAs are all progressives. The city council are all progressives. And now the leader of the pack would be the biggest progressive DSA person of all. It would lead to Kurt Russell's sequel, Escape from New York.
Okay, but what about you quitting? Isn't there an argument that as bad as Cuomo is, the alternative is much worse?
No, because I'm the only Republican. What's the salvation for New York City? Did Rudy not save New York City, and then the next year Pataki saved the state? You're going to get the 1-2 punch. Curtis Lewa, Republican mayor this year. Elise Stefanik takes out Kathy Hochul next year. And now we bring stability back to the state and city. Crime will be down. No chaos, no corruption. That's what I guarantee.
Say before we go, you are not dropping out.
Under no circumstances, don't try to bribe me, billionaires, because I'm not dropping out of this race.
You've taken worse. You've taken incoming. God bless you, Curtis Lewa. Great to see you. I watched last night. Again, Cuomo, John Portore said Cuomo acted like Luca.
Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the Max 35 or the Cleanse, which is 30 parts per million. Max 35 is 35 parts per million. Take a taste, take a teaspoon a day, every day, swish in your mouth, gargle about 20 seconds or so, and then swallow it. What this will do is boost up your immune system. It helps maintain the mucosal barrier, helps the health of your oral cavity and your oral pharynx, and helps the health of your epithelial cells. Please go to my store. Take this every day. This will help to boost up that immune system, and it's part of my anti-aging protocol. In addition, make sure you take this during the fall and the winter season. If you're not feeling well or someone around you is not feeling well, take a tablespoon or 2 a day. But it's really important during the fall and the winter to use this. So please go to my store, get the Max 35 or the Cleanse. Use discount 5 and you get $5 off any order. All caps, discount 5.
Tiger Woods built his career on focus and resilience. It's the same in business. Insperity helps you adjust and keep moving.
Joining me on set, Charlie here, co-host of Fox and Friends Weekend. Charlie Gasparino, Fox Business Senior Correspondent, and Rich Lowry, Editor-in-Chief of National Review. I begin with you, Charlie, because you're not from New York. There we go. Though you're here every weekend, that's enough now.
I feel like an honorary New Yorker.
Yes.
No, yeah, it'll be interesting to see whether or not, I agree with you about Curtis Lewa. It'll be interesting to see whether or not voters, polls show that, that in fact, this helped him. But it was extraordinary as an outsider to watch Mamdani, who is obviously standing next to Andrew Cuomo, looks like a really dynamic guy, kind of helps him a little bit. But he could not give any answer whatsoever about how he was going to pay for any of this fantasy that Slee was pointing out. And he looked ridiculous. He sounded ridiculous, but he does it with that goofy, smug smile that I'm afraid might appeal to 50% plus one.
Yeah. Well, but doesn't even need 50 points. Doesn't even need 50 plus one.
Yeah, it only needs about 30 and change. But New Yorkers will see right through that.
No, they'll see right through the smugness. They hate no New Yorker. Charlie, come on. New Yorkers hate smug. You can say a lot of things. New Yorkers hate smugness.
TKO Mamdani. Sorry for my voice.
Oh no.
He won this debate easy, and I'll tell you why he won. Because when it came down to it, I think Curtis did okay. Made some great points on free market, what is needed for this for the city to get it back on track, which, by the way, it's been off track since Bloomberg left, let's face it. We've had a commie in Bill de Blasio. We've had
Semi-commie.
Yeah, he's pretty commie.
Full commie coming.
Yeah, full commie is coming. We had something bizarre in Eric Adams who didn't really change the sort of direction, the socialist direction of the city, and now we have probably a real commie coming. Neither Curtis, in my view, or Cuomo landed. Definitely not Cuomo. The knockout punch that was needed. They did not expose him to be a commie.
Yeah.
Curtis should have stood up and said, "Listen, with all due respect, you're a Maoist. You hate Israel. Here's what you said. Here's what you want to do." He didn't say that. He kind of talked around it. Cuomo, on the other hand, I mean, where was his old man? I knew Mario Cuomo.
Me too.
That dude would have taken Mamdani's head off.
Cuomo was low energy Jeb.
Yeah, you can be,
Energy Jeb.
you can be gruff and sort of impressively no nonsense and strong, or you can be gruff and just unlikable and tired. And that's what you get from Cuomo. And that's why I agree with Charlie. Look, Curtis is very sincere. He knows the city, has great ideas, but the band there is like 10 to 18% of the vote, right? He's not going to win this race. He's a Republican in New York City. He's not winning this race. So Mamdani, as John Podhoretz put in the New York Post, seemed like a petulant graduate student. But I think of those, he just needs to hold serve.
John Podhoretz's best column in 10 years.
Very good.
You stop bashing Trump just for a moment in order to come in. And I love John Podhoretz.
It's easier to bash you, right?
And I adore his father.
Larry, when you are faced with what both Cuomo and Sleewood faces, and a guy clearly in the lead, you literally have to throw some haymakers.
Right.
You need a Ronald Reagan moment. You need something. Remember Reagan with Carter? Well, there he goes again. You need something like that.
Sure, just shatter the rules.
Yeah,
Go after
but
me.
I won't.
Yeah, but he was hammering away. He was body.
Look,
I'm with you. I'm not saying. By the way, my position in the RIF was not that Curtis is going to win. My position in the RIF was that Curtis won tonight.
He was the best.
He was the best guy.
To us.
And I'm not going to be. No, I don't know about that. I think common sense New Yorkers know if you have one of these domestic violence calls, you're not sending the social worker in first. I'm sorry. And common sense New Yorkers want more cops on the streets and in the subways. And common sense New Yorkers know the difference between 14.8% and 0.
But Larry,
this is a city.
Larry,
This is a business. Used to be a business city.
You brought that up.
Yes.
They let it go.
Right.
That was literally.
But he got it in.
Yeah, for 30 seconds.
Sure.
You should.
Your business is crushing it. But unless they've got the right help desk software,
It's just won't stop.
your agents can get caught in a whirlpool of tickets.
Yeah, for 30 seconds.
Sure.
You should have. That's the
We
problem.
should have called him Fidel. I wanted him to call.
Every side, by the way, every side would have been good.
I wanted him to die.
The gas is just dripping off of Mamdani.
All right, let's get some more quotes. Let's give me a quote. I don't care. This is a crime in New York. Do we have a quote on crime in New York? Cuomo, Mamdani not denouncing Hamas. That's good too. It's Cuomo's best thing. Guys, let's hear some sound. Have some fun. Equal time. Go. Roll tape.
We have the architect and we have the apprentice of no cash bail, which has been a disaster. We have the architect and the apprentice here of raise the age. Let me get this straight. A police officer is there first. He has to wait for the arrival of a mental health officer. You're dealing with fantasy also.
All right.
The police officers are going to be the first one on the scene.
Okay.
And they're always going to have to deal with it first and foremost.
These are great lines.
Yeah,
These are great lines.
suicide.
The architect and the apprentice. Come on, these are great lines.
This is why it was suicide to gather behind Cuomo. Cuomo lost fair and square the Democrat primary, and he's not the best president to get it.
The only way Cuomo can win, I believe this, the entire Democratic Party who walked away from it has to come back. And I don't think they will. Now, will they vote for Curtis Sliwa? I don't know that. All I'm saying is, I just hate at this point, you got 2.5 weeks to go. I believe there's another debate, if I'm not mistaken. There's one more debate. I just don't want it to be poll driven. Okay, here's Cuomo now. This is Cuomo's best moments denouncing Mamdani on Hamas. Take a listen.
The assemblyman will not denounce Hamas. Well, it depends on occupation. That is code, meaning that Israel does not have a right to exist as a Jewish state, which he has never acknowledged. That is from the river to the sea. That's why he won't denounce globalize the Intifada, which means kill all Jews.
Best moment for, I mean, Andrew, I'm giving you your best moment in case you're watching this show. Best moment for Andrew.
Huge vulnerability. He's an extremist on this issue. He's running to run in the most Jewish city outside of Israel. And he's hostile to Zionism and to the Jews, right? It makes zero sense. But the only way Mamdani is going to go down, and it's getting late, is if he's made unacceptable to the average Democrat in New York City. And did we see that in the debate? I wish we did.
No,
I don't think so.
No, Larry,
Charlie, what do you think?
this is so over, it's not funny. I mean, we have an old and just almost decrepit Andrew Cuomo who mustered enough strength to make one good point. And I it was a good, he nailed him, but you know, it was gone in 30 seconds. You never heard it again. We have Curtis, who was kind of all over the place, never really focusing and really attacking in a focused way. So you lost what he was saying. And you have Mamdani, who was smiling. I really
Not smiling.
but he won.
There were smug smirks. That's not a smile.
Yeah, it is. It's enough to win.
Biologically.
It's enough to win. By the way, look at the.
See, this is a smile because I love you, Charlie. This is a genuine cuddle smile. What he did last night was not a smile.
I like his teeth, but you know, the poly market has him up. Like they give it like an 85%. Yes, it's done. And it's he has to come out and say, like, in my view right now, something really outrageous. Like, I'm defunding the police, taking away their guns, and giving them, you know, social worker.
Charlie, it's not sticking by any of the radical things he said, right? He's crab walking against away from all of it.
He's
not really getting stuck on it. Yeah.
I do have to say, I enjoyed the battle between the two Nepo babies.
Yes.
Mamdani and Cuomo.
Yes, Cuomo.
Plugging it up. And then, of course,
Cuomo's a Nepo senior. The other one's
yeah,
a Nepo
the
baby.
Nepo Junior. Exactly.
Nepo architect and Nepo.
We didn't have this, which was really.
I think it
Didn't look great?
No.
We should get rid of the hat.
The other thing I want to say is,
It's not a hat, it's a beret.
the moderators were very unfair. The moderators were very unfair.
Well, they were
hardest. They were horrible. But I think Curtis showed so much energy. And we need energy in our executive. It's the same as Trump. People love Trump's energy. They hated Biden's, sleepiness. I think Andrew Cuomo, who had some points, I mean, I'm not going to take it away from him. We played one of them, but Andrew didn't have any energy.
Yeah.
You needed energy in the executive. It's a rough job, for heaven's sake.
At what point are you going to jump into this? I think you could clean up. I think you'd wipe them all off.
I wanted him to say, look, Fidel, you want law and order, put 10,000 more cops on the streets and in the subways. That's how we get safety.
Now that's
Fidel. I wanted him to say that.
Trump could do that.
I know. But Curtis didn't quite. Curtis went to the water's edge. He knows I've said that, but it didn't quite come out. However, there is a second.
Mamdani corrects Curtis on his name. Oh, it's over. I don't even, whatever it is. I'll probably mispronounce it. I would have said Fidel. Okay, sorry, I'll call you Fidel from now on. I mean, you could.
Oh, yeah. Oh, at that moment, yes.
I was waiting for him.
You're
Okay,
right.
does it really matter how you spell your name? MAO. I mean,
By the way, Mamdani will not reappoint Jessica Tisch, police commissioner. Very clear, right? Curtis, absolutely will. They said they would. And I think Andrew Cuomo said he would too.
Mhm.
She's the reason the last year and a half we've had lower crime in New York and in the subways. But the thing is, it's so troubling to me. I want to go back. I know I'm a supply side. This was not a supply side debate, but there is a difference between 0 and 14.8% tax.
Mhm.
And I'm telling you, I had lunch today with a very respected, I'm going to call him a businessman. He runs the biggest museum also. New York desperately needs a dose of prosperity. Donald Trump talks about a golden age in America. We need a golden age in New York because Charlie's right. We've been slipping and sliding now for almost 20 years. Bloomberg's last mayoralty wasn't any good. So the golden age of the 80s and 90s, Koch, Giuliani, early Bloomberg has escaped the city, and we're hurting.
Say this, and Cuomo or Curtis say this, if Mamdani gets away in taxes, I-95 would be clogged.
I think Curtis down the floor. But I will say, at least Andrew said he's not going to raise taxes. But Chris, the only guy who says he's going to cut them, and I like that a lot. He had a little plan, but we need that. I'm just saying, New York so desperately needs an era of prosperity.
You know what, Larry?
The recovery from COVID is just not
the problem.
good.
It's never coming, and here unless we hit that bottom. And here's why. Look at Andrew Cuomo's last term and a half. He literally was Mamdani liked.
Yeah.
He raised taxes.
I agree.
He defunded the police through jail reform. You can go down the list. He expanded the size of government. He did crazy stuff during COVID. He was what is endemic in Albany right now.
Yeah,
And in the state, it's done. I mean,
his fingerprints are.
I think this state is so over that you
How much
the
well,
only way it comes back is if it goes into bankruptcy.
what about Elise Stefanik? She's gonna, if Mamdani the commie wins, Elise Stefanik running on a Republican ticket, I mean, it's gonna help her.
Oh, it's gonna be a boon for Republicans
Right.
in statewide and across the country.
Well, no, I think it's across the country. I don't know about statewide. This state is so far gone.
She's running even in the
The
polls.
same people have already made it
Like
hard.
She's already got $12,
I think
$15
it helps
million
her more than any other Republican.
Yeah, absolutely, direct head on. So I don't, can I ask you one, because I'm gonna go off message. Democrats just voted against paying the military personnel in combat. They just voted against that. I mean, I know they've done a lot of stupid things with the CR and shutting the government down. This is by far the dumbest. Tell me, they're defunding the military because Trump can move accounts around and pay them.
I think that, honestly, we're gonna look back at this and realize that Democrats are in far graver shape than we realize. You look at the statewide races in Virginia and New Jersey, Democrats should be walking away in both of those. And they're neck and neck in both of those. And I, you know, whatever about the outcome of those races, what I think is significant is you have two blue states that with everything that Trump is accomplishing right now and winning right now in Washington, D.C., Democrats are not able to convert that to a walkaway victory in New Jersey and Virginia.
Yeah, New Jersey really could happen. I mean, registrations have been trending towards Republican. So he really ran before. He's a better candidate. And the energy story there is a debacle for Democrats. Murphy put everything on wind, didn't work, totally uneconomical, shut down all these natural gas and nuclear power plants, and they just don't have enough energy.
And hurt the whales. The whales are coming up on the beach head. And in Virginia, Charlie, the Democratic running for attorney general wants to kill all his opponents and their kids.
Like I said,
and they won't disavow
I will say, I know a lot of people in the Citarelli campaign, and they're telling me their polling shows him right there. This is way ahead where they were this time last, I guess,
If the
4 years
public
ago.
polls show him down 5, he's probably ahead 10.
Yeah,
Well, that's the way I look at this.
or at least a little bit. Yes.
At least a little bit, anyway. I tend to exaggerate. Charlie Gaspario, Rich Lowry, and Charlie Hurd, thank you ever so much. You can get
Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the Gladiator Barley. Gladiator Barley will bring down inflammation, soak up free radicals with superoxide dismutase, and detoxify your body. You do resistance training, and it'll also help you to build muscle. It's a great supplement that you should be taking to slow down the aging process and get healthy. Boomer Boost, you can stack it with Gladiator Barley or take it separately. This is a very important supplement to take. It's going to help with your heart, your vascular system, your musculature, your brain function, improve your energy levels, and rev up your metabolism. Super important to take and a great way to control your A1C levels. If you stack this together, you'll get a synergistic effect and slow down the aging process even more and control your A1C levels. So please go to my store, get the Boomer Boost and the Gladiator Barley, very high quality supplements that you should be taking every day. Now, when you're detoxifying your body and bringing down inflammation regularly and giving your body the nutrients it needs, what will happen is that you're going to be slowing down the aging process, but you're also improving your brain function, which is super important. So please take my advice, stack this Boomer Boost with the Gladiator Barley, and it's a great way to get healthy. But detoxifying your body and bringing down inflammation will also help with the cardiovascular system because it's preventing further plaque buildup. And when you're boosting up your immune system and improving your endocrine system, your body is going to perform better. So it's really important. Also, you can detoxify your body by taking zeolite. This will remove heavy metals, toxins, and chemicals from your body. Zeolite will bind to those and then allow you to urinate them out within 6 to 8 hours. Take 3 small drops underneath your tongue, drink them with filtered water, do that every day. It's a great way to get healthy. All right, we're going to pivot over to loan losses at certain banks. This is important because it's another data point to understand, is there some sort of stress in the market? All right, we have stress internationally because of the doom loop in the UK and in France. We have stress with the political instability in France and the UK. We have wars going on in Ukraine, and also a tenuous ceasefire in the Middle East. We have the shutdown in the United States. We have the tariff war between the United States and China. So there's a lot going on in the markets. There is a precipitous drop in crypto, and there's also the potentiality of a problem with the labor market in the United States. And then there's inflation also as a problem, being above the 2% target. So there's a lot of different pieces here that could force the market, the financial market, to start to sell off. Now, I still have a target for the S&P 500 at 6,800 by year end, between 6,800 to maybe 7,000. And then when we go into the first quarter of next year, we're going to reevaluate, take a look at what's going on with the price structure, and survey the environment to see if there's a potential burst in 2026. Now, some quants are thinking that there's going to be a boom in 2026. I'm not so sure, but we have to pay attention to all these different data points. So let's listen in to Bloomberg about the potential stress with private credit. Now, if you remember, I've been talking about private credit and private equity, and they're trying to wrap ETFs so individuals with IRAs or even 401ks or mutual funds could participate in this asset class, this alternative investment, private equity or private credit. But the problem is that it's not regulated as well as the banking industry. And the ability for easy exit out of private equity or private credit isn't the same as, let's say, a typical asset class. So the liquidity is different. It's this is a product that is very, 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 it could take advantage of the average person that's investing. All right, stay away from this private credit and private equity type ETFs. Do not engage in them, because the liquidity issue, lack of regulatory oversight, and it almost seems like a scheme, like a financial scheme for individuals to get investors into that asset class to bolster it up. And we're already seeing, the potentiality of it bursting here. So just if you see these ETFs that are dealing with private credit or private equity, private credit or private equity, stay away from them. Could you make some money on it? Yeah, but you could also lose a lot too. It's not worth the risk. It's not worth the risk. So let's listen in to Bloomberg about this particular topic. But keep it in the context that as we move into 2026, are we starting to see some issues with private credit and private equity with certain banks, regional banks that don't have proper risk management? Oh, sorry.
In my view, markets a little yesterday were a little bit on edge, to say the least. Are there lots more credit cockroaches out there in your view?
In my view. So I'm not sure that there are necessarily a lot more credit cockroaches out there to the level that we've seen over the past few weeks. But I will say, as someone who's focused on credit for quite some time, you can usually follow the capital to challenges. And we've seen a tremendous growth in some private asset classes, private credit being one, and it's not particularly transparent. And that makes it really difficult to assess the true credit quality, true credit health of a big part now of the credit market when there's been so much capital and perhaps not as much time to do really robust due diligence and underwriting.
And what industries though could be most exposed to that? Because when I look at Tricolor and First Brand showing up in the auto space, but are there broader concerns?
Yeah, this is a good question, and one we've been mulling over with our autos analysts, trying to assess, is this something that is specific to just those handful of companies in terms of having true fraud issues, true structural issues from a business operation perspective? Or do we need to give bigger thought to just the amount of debt capital that's outstanding, not just for auto OEMs or suppliers, but within the personal consumer finance space, within ABS? And I think that it's always important to start to poke around. Now, when we look at where capital has flowed over the past 5 years or so, there have been a number of sectors that have grown quite tremendously. When we think back to the kind of media and telecom bust-ups that we've seen for the past couple of years, that has to do a lot with the fact that just a lot of capital went into those sectors kind of leading into COVID and during the COVID pandemic. And so as we're looking forward, we always are looking at technology, at software, data centers, all of these things that have just seen such a robust amount of cash put to work.
It's interesting that you say data centers because that seems like an area that could not be hotter, whether it's in the private or public markets. So if there are concerns in data centers, how long does that take to show up though, just given that a lot of these are either starting to break ground or not even there yet?
Yeah, it's a really good question, especially because of just the way that a lot of the data centers have been financed, right? We know we have these massive hyperscalers with a lot of cash flow that, if one data center is eventually, not particularly successful, that's probably not going to be make it or break it. And there has been a lot of diversification in terms of how data centers have been financed within the ABS market, within the world of private credit for investment grade. So I do think it's going to take some time to really assess, what is the return on investment for all of the data center investment, for all of the AI investment. I don't think that we're necessarily going to have a full picture within the next 3, 6, 12 months, but it might be, here and there, we start to see some things that are a bit more challenging on the headline perspective.
I do wonder though, it's interesting. I was looking at Zion's and it got an upgrade today, but if I go back to the October 13th, Moody's came out and said the outlook remains stable. I'm just putting it out there. And then you have what we got yesterday, and we're learning more about it. And then you did have an analyst come out over at Baird and said, actually upgraded to outperform from neutral. Analysts noting the sell-off seems excessive. So I just wonder, David George is the analyst. I just wonder, it's hard to keep track of all this stuff, and I do wonder, there has been so much sloshing around for a while. Is there a good chance that we miss it or we don't realize that there's a problem until we're too far in? I don't want to be exclamatory, but I just, great financial crisis is hard to forget.
It really is. It's really hard to forget. And especially when you look specifically at credit markets and where valuations stand today, right? Investment grade trading at very tight spreads, now well below 5% yield. High yield, similarly, very tight spreads, below 7% on a yield basis. And when you think about what compensation am I getting for credit risk, it's much lower than it once was. So even if we don't have, a widespread systemic blow-up like we had with COVID, like we had with the GFC, the upside downside feels a bit more skewed at this point to the downside within credit markets. That's not to say you have to sell everything. There's nothing to buy. There's definitely a good number of very high quality issuers where you can clip a coupon and feel reasonably okay about things. But the reality of credit markets is when you are lending, not every deal is going to be a home run. Not every deal is even going to be a single. Sometimes there are going to be losses, and whether we have broad-based systemic fraud, I don't think that that's necessarily the case. I'm not necessarily worried about that. But when I think it's just what credit valuations are paying me to tolerate right now, it feels like the skew is towards the downside.
Hey, one thing I'm curious, Winnie, though, private markets, we didn't really, they were there during the great financial crisis, but not like they are today. How does that potentially complicate things? And the opacity of it, like that we just don't know what's going on?
Yes, it's true. It's hard to assess truly, what is going on in private markets in aggregate. Now, the good thing about private markets so far is that there is still a lot of liquidity on the sidelines within private markets. Just all of the cash that's been deployed into private credit, private markets, has not actually been fully invested. Also, we know that within private markets, it's a very fragmented lender and borrower relationship. There's just a lot of different types of companies that have been lent money to, and then also lenders. And so to think about, is this systemic, you would need to see some sort of event that was kind of widespread enough across the private markets to really pull all of that liquidity out. And given some of the structural considerations, that makes it a little bit more difficult to say, oh my gosh, private markets, this is the next systemic thing to really worried about. But are private markets necessarily going to be just an ample source of liquidity without any problems, which has kind of been the case for the past few years? I don't know that that's going to be what we expect going forward.
My daughter is being treated for leukemia. It hit me hard. It did. Being a girl dad.
Alrighty, let's take a look at it. This is the Tomahawks.
Stop right now at the battle line. I told that to President Zelensky. I told it to President Putin. Thank you very much, everybody.
That was Friday.
I did want to bring you that minute-long statement there from President Trump as he was boarding Air Force One, not taking questions there, but of course there was that news conference we brought you earlier on in the day with President Trump and Zelensky, and then Zelensky spoke on his own. So we'll bring that to you later on this morning. Again, we are taking a live look at this hour over the White House in D.C. as we continue to cover this from each and every angle. Mark Chandler is the Director of Government Relations and Professor of Practice at Coastal Carolina University, also a former Senior Defense Intelligence official. Mark, as always, thank you so much for taking the time to join us here.
You're welcome, Josh. Good morning, and thanks for having me on to talk about this subject.
Good morning. Well, first off, can you start by kind of explaining the takeaways that exist from that meeting between President Trump and Zelensky? Of course, we were not in the room, but we are getting a lot of information from both Trump and Zelensky about what went on behind closed doors.
Well, Josh, I think we can characterize the meeting itself and the takeaways from this as kind of subdued optimism. And I say that because I think a lot of people were prepared to see some major announcement come from this and say the U.S. is going to provide Tomahawk missiles to the Ukrainians. I honestly don't believe that the Tomahawks were really a sincere offer that was on the table just due to the nature of the weapon system itself and where we are in the talks. So I think both sides are positive. But at this stage, trying to negotiate and jockey for position ahead of these upcoming talks, I think that you can kind of say, okay, subdued optimism, we're moving forward. We still have a strong partnership, but it seems a little bit of hesitancy on the part of the U.S. not to offend Putin at this stage, trying to draw him in, even though he has proven time and again to be duplicitous in his actions. So I say, let's see what's going to happen over the next 2 weeks. No damage was done to the relationship between the U.S. and Ukraine at this time. So let's just move forward in a positive direction.
How significant would it have been if those Tomahawks were provided? I have to imagine, kind of as you said there, that could cause some issues between Presidents Trump and Putin because they've agreed to meet over in Budapest, Hungary here. Trump saying that's likely to happen, quote unquote, within 2 weeks or so. My question is, how could that have all impacted the whole situation there?
Well, the Tomahawk concerns Russia primarily because of its range, its accuracy, and its ability to strike deep inside Russia. So that, I don't want to use the term escalation in certain contexts. It's a better weapon system to give the Ukrainians what they need to strike offensively deeper into Russia. Now let me just add this about the Tomahawk weapon system itself. It is a complicated weapon system. It's very accurate. It has a long range. Probably looking at about the 1,000-mile range system that would be given to the Ukrainians if that happens. We do have a much longer range version of that. But when you look at the weapon system itself, the intelligence required to go into targeting something, some of the mapping systems that go into that system. So you look at this, it's not a fire and forget system. It's not something we're going to give the Ukraine today and then start launching tomorrow. It will take significant U.S. training support to make this weapon system work for what the Ukrainians need. But what it does give the Ukrainians, or what would happen, is the ability to strike deep targets to include Moscow, if you want to get dramatic about it, although I don't think that's a primary target, but military command and control facilities, some of the air bases that Russia uses to launch these drones and launch air attacks, missile sites, so they can strike much deeper into Russia to kind of push back on what's going to happen. But more importantly, and probably what a lot of people don't realize, is Ukraine has been going after the oil and gas infrastructure. That's Russia's primary economic generator right now. And so Ukraine needs to be more effective, and to do that, strike some of those oil and gas energy infrastructure targets that are deeper inside Russia. That's going to bring some pain. Yes, the military targets will obviously help Ukraine militarily, but you have to go after the economic aspects of what's fueling this war that Russia's brought on to Ukraine. The Tomahawks would allow Ukraine to hit more of those targets and be more effective.
Is there any real possibility of seeing Presidents Trump, Putin, and Zelensky actually meet in the same room? Because it even sounds as though President Trump was saying there's quote unquote bad blood between the two, Putin and Zelensky, no question there, but that it doesn't seem very likely now.
Well, I think when you try to put the three of them in a room together, Putin is going to push back. He does not consider Zelensky an equal to him. Even though Putin initiated this war, I have to do a little pushback on the president in that I don't think they are equally to blame. Putin started this war. Putin's the aggressor. Putin continues to just push his people through a meat grinder, if you will, out there. But I don't think that Putin's going to lower himself, if you will, to be in the same room. I mean, it would be a major accomplishment if that were to happen. Could they be in the same city? Could they all be in the same building? Yeah, there's a chance. And you could see a mediator going back and forth, room to room. But I don't know that you'll get the face-to-face meeting. That would be a significant acquiescence from Putin if that were to happen.
And one thing that's interesting, you mentioned mediator, and we heard from President Trump during one of the news conferences yesterday that he's, quote unquote, the mediator president, as he has mediated a lot of different wars. That includes the situation taking place right now. You and I have discussed a lot about the Gaza war. That ceasefire, fragile, but still in effect at this point. We also have the potential for the Russia-Ukraine peace deal to be in effect as well. If those are negotiated, what will that do to President Trump's legacy, his standing there as a president, not just now, but in the future?
Well, I think, Josh, you have to look at this holistically, and you're right about the Gaza deal. While it's not complete, this is a major accomplishment. I don't want to take anything away with the fact that we haven't gotten through the other phases of that negotiation. But this is a major accomplishment that I think if you look throughout history, any administration would be happy to put this feather in their cap as an accomplishment in 4 years, not just 10 months that the president has. But let's go back. I think what you're seeing is a personal desire, a drive, part of his psychological makeup that is President Trump, that he abhors war. He abhors this conflict and the tragedy that comes with it. And so, I mean, that goes back to his first administration. But when you look at his single-minded effort I mean, I know he can be a polarizing figure domestically and internationally. You know, sometimes people either hate or love him on that situation, but you cannot take away from the fact of what he has solved. If we look at this year, India, Pakistan back in May, the big concern if a war starts there, and you had fighting escalate real quickly, is this could lead quickly to a nuclear war on the Asian subcontinent. And he went in and through force of personality and U.S. strength kind of stopped that war. But then you look at the Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda. That's been going on for decades, and that fighting escalated. He stopped that back in June. And then Israel, Iran. And here he used judicious military, U.S. military force, and he stopped something that for decades we have been saying that if Israel and Iran go to war, this is going to escalate and bring the entire Middle East down. It stopped. And then finally, Armenia and Azerbaijan, another decades-long fighting. Those are 4 or 5 major accomplishments to stop bloodshed, to stop war. And I think, you know, you look at how President Trump approaches this, you have to give him that respect and do. I mean, in the public stage, forget the Nobel Peace Prize. I know that's what a lot of people talk about, but as an accomplishment in an administration in just 10 months, phenomenal accomplishments here.
And we heard from President Trump, he said it multiple times, that's not why he's doing it. He says he doesn't really care about the Nobel Peace Prize. He says it would be nice, but that, and I don't want to mix up, so I'm going to kind of paraphrase here, but he essentially said he loves the idea of stopping wars. All right, my last question here before I let you go, I want to ask you, what should we be watching for here as we see Presidents Trump and Putin meet there in Budapest, Hungary in the coming weeks?
Well, over the next couple of weeks, you're going to see a lot of public posturing. So I think let's go back a little bit in time and look at the Alaska summit. You know, Putin came in there. He was very gregarious. He talked about how he was ready for peace. Let's go to peace. And soon after that, some of the most devastating Russian attacks since the beginning of the war, he leveled on Ukraine. And he hasn't let up. Now, so I think what you're going to see is we have to watch for what Russia does militarily leading up over the next couple of weeks. And then I think you need to see how the West kind of stakes out its positions as we move forward. You know, Russia says they're open to peace. Russia wants certain things from this, but there's no real pressure on Russia right now. So what is the West, what is the U.S. willing to start to apply both public and private pressure as you go out there? There's a lot of things that can happen to make Russia feel pain. You know, India's helping now with starting to reduce its oil imports, but we haven't even gone after the Russian ghost oil fleet. So is that going to be put on the table? Are sanctions going to be made to put on the table? You know, something I talk about in my Capsule newsletter that I publish monthly is if I look at this, Russia is going to have to be made to feel pain, both economically, and then there's got to be security guarantees that shows Russia cannot continue this aggression. So how does the West start to posture those positions publicly? And we'll see, because Russia is going to continue to lie diplomatically. They're going to continue to lie publicly as they position. So we'll see how that goes. If there's positive outcome from the senior level talks that are supposed to occur next week, I think we're on a positive glide slope, although I still will not trust Putin. We're on a positive glide slope to some public meetings with Trump, Putin, and possibly Zelensky here in Budapest.
All right, Mark Chandler, as always, thank you so much for taking the time to join us and breaking it all down. As I mentioned,
please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the vitamin C and magnesium. This will help to boost up your immune system, help with your skin health, and help with your brain function. Magnesium and zinc helps with your immune system and your brain function. Stack these together for max benefit, especially for the fall and winter. Boost up that immune system. You're going to need to be taking this for the fall and winter season. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Another great stack that help with your system and slow down the aging process is to get the omega-3. Omega-3 will bring down inflammation and help with your lipid profile. This will help with your cardiovascular health. Vitamin B complex helps with the electron transport chain, so your cells produce more ATP. The first 4 B vitamins helps with that electron transport chain. Vitamin B complex will improve your cellular metabolism, and vitamin B complex will help to protect your neurons. Stack this together to help with your cardiovascular health and help with neural function and cellular metabolism. Super important. Another great supplement that I have to help with brain function is Good Night Formula. This will help you to get a good sleep. Either 3 to 5 cycles of REM sleep is what you need regularly to detoxify your central nervous system, to consolidate memory, and to be well rested. If you are sleep deprived chronically, you can get early onset of dementia. So it's very important to get good sleep. Take the Good Night Formula every night. This has tryptophan, melatonin, GABA, and passion flower. It's a very high quality supplement that you should be taking at night, drink it with filtered water, get a good sleep. And by doing this regularly, you're actually going to improve your brain function. I also have deodorants that are used for males or females. You can get it in peppermint, lavender, and tea tree, or in citrus. These are made from essential oils from the Himalayas. No baking soda, no aluminum, very high quality ingredients. And these are dual purpose. You use them as a deodorant every day, but it'll also help to detoxify your body. And when you detoxify your body, you're improving your immune system and your endocrine system. Super important. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get these great supplements. Use discount 5, you get $5 off any order. All right, let's listen to Steve Ratner about the job market.
We're going to go to Steve Ratner, who's going to be talking about the K-shaped economy, this period we're going through. So Steve, you bring us the charts this morning on the health of the U.S. economy, and your first one shows how economic growth is uneven. Explain.
Yeah, okay. So we've had economic growth now for a number of years, and it is continuing. But there are two things happening with economic growth that people should be aware of. The first is it's generally slowing. It's going from here to here down to just about under 2% in total, from 2.5% in 2024. But what's really interesting is we all talk about AI, and AI is now becoming a significant part of economic growth. AI back in this whole period here was only about 10% of economic growth. Now it's 31% of economic growth. And so the actual growth that's filtering down to ordinary Americans is dropping even by more, and it would be 1.1% in the first half of 2025. So that's happening on that side. And then what's happening in terms of wages for people, which partially reflects obviously that slowdown in economic growth, is that for the first time in a number of years, people toward the bottom are doing worse than people toward the top. You had a whole period going back to 2016 here, where wages for people at the bottom quartile were rising faster than for the rest of the other quartiles further up. And then you had COVID, of course, but now it's gone the other way. And so people here in the bottom quartile are seeing their wages only going up by about 3.5% a year, while people up here are seeing them grow by more than 5.5% a year. And so we're seeing now rising income inequality for the first time in a number of years.
And your second chart, Steve, gets at why that is. A lot of it is to do with the explosion of the stock market in the last 5 or 6 years, with the wealthy getting much, much wealthier.
Yeah, we've had this extraordinary period in the stock market where you've had in 5 out of the last 6 years, you've had the stock market go up by 15% or more, as much as 30%, 25%. Obviously, huge increases way above what the average American is going to get. And this year, while the year is not quite over yet, we're also on track for a year where the stock market is likely, but it's not over, likely to go up by 15% a year again. So that's created an enormous amount of wealth. And that's helped. It's not the only thing, but that has helped fuel this purchasing power, huge rise in purchasing power on the part of the very wealthy. You can see if you go back to the beginning of 2020, the people in the top 20% have increased their consumption. They bought more stuff by 50%. But every other income group has only gone up about 25, which is almost exactly the same of inflation. What does that mean? It means that for the average American, they're really not buying any more stuff than they were buying 4 years ago, which means their standard of living isn't really going up. This group here, actually not this group, the top 10% of Americans account for 50% of everything that's bought in this country today. So think about that. The top 10% of Americans get 50% of the consumption. The bottom 90% of Americans get the other 50% of consumption.
And your third,
Ninja One is a unified IT operations platform that combines endpoint management, patching, ticketing, backup.
And your third chart is very jarring, especially if you're looking for a job right now. The job market looks rough.
Yeah, the job market is clearly getting rough, and that is unusual when you have an economy that's still expanding. But we have a number of things going on. We have tariffs going on. We have economic uncertainty going on. We have AI going on. And all those things together have led to a significant slowdown in the jobs market. We even had 1 month, this last month, where jobs may have declined. We don't have those official numbers yet because of the government shutdown. But ADP, the private forecaster, said we lost jobs last month. But let's look at two interesting things. So ADP, which is a big payroll processing company, as everybody I'm sure knows, for the last 4 months, virtually all the job creation has come from big companies, these red boxes here. The smaller companies, all the way down to the very smallest business, 1 to 19 employees, they've actually been losing jobs for 4 months. Some exceptions, obviously, but in total, losing jobs. So small business has really been hurting. The other thing that's interesting, and these are BLS numbers, Bureau of Labor Statistics numbers, is what kinds of jobs have we been creating? We've been creating jobs in leisure and hospitality, which means restaurants and hotels and things like that. We've been creating jobs in education and health. We obviously are a nation putting more and more into health. But everything else, we've basically been losing jobs. So whether it's finance or even information technology, notwithstanding AI, or the professions like law or business, we're losing jobs at the moment, and we're only creating jobs in these sectors. And so what does all that amount to? It amounts to the fact that more and more Americans are being unemployed for longer and longer. We define long-term unemployment as being unemployed for 27 weeks or more. And that percentage is now up to just over a quarter of all the unemployed are now considered long-term unemployed. Put aside COVID, that is the highest percentage since back here in 2016, and it is rising. And so you have more and more people in the long-term unemployed ranks. So it's not surprising when you look at these polls that you still find huge percentages of Americans who think the economy is getting worse, not better, who think that we're on the wrong track, not the right track. Because when you look at the average, ordinary, everyday Americans, they are simply not getting better off at the moment.
Putting your first and third charts together, the explosion of AI costing some of those jobs as well. So big picture, Steve, we were just talking briefly in the break about this idea of a bubble right now in the stock market. And the fears, as Andrew Ross Sorkin, our friend, is writing about in this new book, 1929, and has been talking about, but he's not alone in this, that there may be some kind of a crash coming. What's your sense of how big the bubble is and how painful the burst might be?
Stocks are very, very expensive. They're as expensive as they've almost ever been when you look at it relative to earnings and things like that. There's no question about that. A lot of what's been driving the stock market, as you know, has been what we call the Magnificent Seven, big technology, mostly big technology companies that are involved in the AI boom. But other stocks are up as well. Look, predicting the stock market is honestly a fool's game. I don't try to do it. I don't think any good investor tries to do it. I personally would be very surprised if we had a crash along the lines of 1929. But it's certainly possible that the stock market will correct in here somewhere. It's had that extraordinary run that we talked about. And all good things do come to an end. So we could have a significant downturn in the stock market. I don't rule that out, but I'm not expecting 1929.
Morning Joe, economic analyst Steve Ratner. Thank you very much. As always, we appreciate you.
Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the collagen. Collagen is a dual purpose supplement that you should be taking. This is a month's supply. You mix it with soft foods, filtered water, a smoothie, or even with milk, but take it every day. This will help with your skin, your nails, your hair, your musculature, your joint health, and also your bone density. Make sure you do some resistance training to get the max benefits from it. Another great supplement to help with maintaining and building muscles, taking Myotrol. Myotrol has polyphenols, flavonoids, and lignans to help with the gene expression to build muscle. Do some resistance training. Myotrol will also help with the health of your mitochondria. And a great way to start getting healthy is to take a multivitamin. This multivitamin has the multivitamins you need for proper enzymatic activity. They are the cofactors that your cells need so it performs properly. Also, taking a great probiotic. I have it in powdered form or in VeggieCat. By taking a probiotic, you're improving your gut biome, you're improving your immune system at the gut level, you're improving your metabolism, you will improve your brain function. You'll be able to sleep better. And by sleeping better, you're detoxifying your central nervous system, you're consolidating memory, and you'll be well rested. Getting good sleep is very important to slow down the aging process and to help the health of your neurons. In addition, a good gut biome is going to help with metabolism and improve the communication between your gut and your liver. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the VeggieCat version or the powdered version probiotic. Very important to take every day. Good health starts at the gut. Use discount 5 and you get $5 off any order. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. All right. Next. All right. Let's listen to Fox Business here.
Hello traders, and welcome back to the TradingView channel. In this video, we're introducing our new AI indicator, which we've developed in partnership with OpenAI.
My global investment CEO and CIO, Bob Dahl, I like to call him my markets guru, Bob. This has been a bouncing ball kind of week. If you look, we can see one day the Dow and the S&P and the NASDAQ are up, then the next down, then up, and got today up. What is this telling you? Anything at all about the volatility that we've seen?
Started that Friday,
Right.
and within each of those days, it's, back and forth across the zero line, sometimes multiple times. There's a lot going on under the surface, Liz, I think is what it boils down to. Look, the market's been on a tear. It's a little tired. It's taking a bit of a rest. And I think as a result of that, you're going to have some puts and some takes. What concerns me most are the small cap companies that have no earnings and they've just been on a tear. I'd be careful how much that I own. A lot of these other financials, some of the ones you mentioned, their earnings are fantastic.
Are you saying look for the cash flow, make sure they are actually making money?
Yeah, valuations are high. You know that. It doesn't mean you sell. What it means is you focus on companies that are delivering the cash flow and have decent profitability. I like to use return on equity as that measure. That combination is pretty powerful.
So I'm hearing you're not exactly poking holes in a bull market.
Yeah, I'm calling it a high risk bull market. Bull market means the path to least resistance is higher, so you got to be there. The high risk part is just be aware of all the speculation. We saw some of it yesterday. There's a lot of margin out there. The SPACs are back and IPO prices are jumping like crazy. Margin debts are high and valuations, however you measure, are very high. But we also know valuation's not a timing tool. It just gives you a sense of the risk and reward you have at any point in time. Just be cognizant.
And people find some comfort in the fact that the Fed cut interest rates recently and that they are expected to cut interest rates at the end of this month. Today, you had a Fed head, St. Louis Fed Bank President Alberto Musalem, and he made some interesting comments. We can put some of these up on the screen here. He said, I could support a path with another cut if more risks to jobs emerge and inflation remains contained. Those are two big ifs. And we won't know about jobs unless you're looking at, say, for example, a private report on layoffs or challenger grade business.
And there are a bunch of private surveys, as you know, and they're showing some weakness. Is it definitive? Is it, I should be concerned? Not really, but I need to monitor it carefully. And we heard Fed Chair Powell a couple of days ago. He kind of looked at the balancing act. We need to fight any weakness that might be out there in jobs and consumption. But on the other hand, we got to worry about inflation. Their jobs getting harder and harder.
Salam also said inflation is still a very big thing for consumers, and that he said the tariffs will work their way through the system, through the economy by the middle of next year. So he's kind of flagging that there could be a few more, I guess, legs to.
Exactly. Or another way to say it, we're far from the Fed's 2% target. We're 3 and a fraction in a lot of measures drifting higher. And that's got to be a concern to a lot of the Fed government.
But you still like some individual names. And one of them, which you've said on the show before, hopefully our viewers bought it, was Gilead Sciences. Gilead is actually hitting a record right now.
It is. It's done well. HIV, both prophylactically and therapeutically, lots of different products. And I think their ability to meet the needs of the market and continue to grow is pretty good. Stock's more expensive than it was, but it's still not expensive. Financials are good.
Why do you like Qualcomm? And listen, I love the management there. Cristiano Hamon is a very smart guy.
Yes.
They make a great product, but the stock itself just seems to be stuck in quicksand.
Yeah, can't get out of its own way. It's why I like it is because it is controversial, therefore it's cheap. So you got to make your bet. They have struggled a bit with some of the high-end products they've had. Smartphones, they're trying to reduce their exposure to that. But at these prices, I think you roll the dice and own some Qualcomm. It's very cheap technology is another way.
Interesting. Forward PE is 13. And the tech company that I referenced at the top that's struggling today is Oracle. Oracle's getting hammered, even though it came out with some very positive numbers and saying, oh, our margins are just fine and all of the AI expenditures are what we're supposed to get back from it. Oracle's PE is 42.
Yes.
And you got Oracle falling 7 1/3% because some analysts say,
at 42 times, things have to go nearly perfectly. At 13 times, yeah, we can relax a little bit. It's like, well, I think.
Anything you're worried about with the bond market? Rates are rising.
Yeah, rates are rising.
But they're still below 4%.
Yes. What I don't like is the fact when the Fed last lowered rates, out the curve rates moved to the top. I don't know if that's the bond vigilantes. Exactly. Bond vigilantes, are they warming up? We've got to keep our eye on that bond market very carefully.
10-year yield right now, smack in the middle right there, 4.40. Good to see you, Bob.
Thank you.
Hello traders, and welcome back to the TradingView channel. In this video, we're introducing our new AI indicator, which we've developed in partnership with OpenAI. Now, this is the first trading indicator of its kind using artificial intelligence to analyze multiple market factors, saving you countless hours of crypto and stock market research.
Good evening. I'm Dagan McDowell.
I'm James Freeman. Welcome to the bottom line.
All 50 states in America this weekend will be subjected to the screeching, the hysteria, the off-key singing of anti-Trump protesters, calling the president a tyrannical monarch. But we asked them, if President Trump were a king, would these court jesters be able to shut down our government for 17 days?
Mr. President, do you think that the government shutdown is all about this rally that's happening this weekend, the No Kings rally?
I mean, some people say they want to delay it, but it can't. This is what I think. You know, they're referring to me as a king. I'm not.
Right. President Trump keeps racking up agenda wins on his shutdown scorecard while Democrats are on a losing streak. Why do they refuse to play ball? Republicans say waiting until after this weekend has been the plan all along, so they don't anger their rabid base.
The Senate won't vote again on Republicans' clean continuing resolution until Monday. That'll be the 11th time. Because this weekend, the real king in his mind, the shutdown king, we call him, Chuck Schumer, and his obedient subjects, the Sombrero sisters, are all booked up.
We're a democracy in America. We have no kings. I will join the marchers to celebrate. what makes this country so great. These are Save America rallies, Love America rallies.
I support the right of every single American to participate in the rallies that are going to take place this week. And show
It's a freedom of speech. These rallies, the No King rallies, that as long as it's peaceful and so there's no problem with it. The issue here is that Trump is not acting like a king. He's just trying to clean up the cities. So why don't they, instead of doing a rally or doing a march or a protest, why don't they actually do some civil service and actually clean up the cities that they've messed up? Why doesn't Jeffries say, you know what, let's take the human energy and capital and go to these inner cities and clean up the mess instead of doing a No King rally? No. They would admit to the problem, that their cities are shitholes.
to express dissent against an out-of-control administration. That's as American as motherhood, baseball, and apple pie. That's the First Amendment. The Hate America rally is absurd.
Wait a minute. Trump is trying to prevent illegal immigrants from coming over the border, and he's doing a damn good job by shutting down the border. And then the issue is what do you do with the illegal aliens? All right, especially the ones that are continuing on the criminal pathway. ICE needs to round them up and deport them. What's wrong with that? That's protecting your border. Just shutting down the border isn't good enough. You need to prosecute the people that are here illegally. If you don't, then you don't have rule of law. They're here illegally. They're illegal. So No King's rally, what are they protesting? That Trump's going into cities and trying to clean up the mess and the crime? Well, why doesn't the mayors do it themselves? Secondly, why are they sanctuary cities? Well, we know why. They need the amnesty to get the representation in Congress, and they need the money for their Department of Education. That's exactly what's happening in New York. But the bottom line is they're here illegally, so you got to get rid of them. So how is a president that's getting rid of illegal aliens a king? Some sort of monarch? Really? It's just another mindset of the stupid liberal.
Exact opposite. People are going out because they love America and people want to stand up for the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. Love America so much they're holding Washington hostage and sending their anti-oligarchy whisperer to be the leader of tomorrow's DC struggle session. He better be warming up his vocal cords for a weekend of this.
Okay, all right. Anti-ICE protesters sing about fascists. All fascists about to lose is what they're singing. So you're a fascist if you have ICE round up illegal aliens? How's that a fascist? They broke the law. They're here illegally. They don't deserve to be here. They're using tax-paying resources that could be going to other programs that are for the citizens that are actually paying the taxes. How is this a fascist? This is a liberal mindset. Saying shit that's just not true. Trump's not a king. How is he a king? He's trying to clean up the mess of these cities and get rid of illegal aliens. How's that a king? Oh, he's going against certain norms or certain regulations. Well, it's being litigated in the court system. Does the president have the right to clean up the mess? And using the National Guard? Now, I would say yes. under certain provisions. So if he was a king, would he be listening to the Supreme Court? And when the Supreme Court strikes down some of his policies, he stops. How's that a king? That's how our system works. So these people, they have the right to say whatever they want, right? That's freedom of speech. They have the right to protest and all this. But the thing is that they do not have the right to, how should I phrase this? They do not have the right to distort reality. They can say whatever they want, but they can't like change reality. They can't change the truth, right? The truth is the truth. Well, and maybe it's relativism and their perspective on the truth, and I don't believe in relativism. All right? So here you have individuals saying, oh, if you're rounding up illegals, you must be a fascist. Well, why are they here illegally? And then these same people are promoting policies like what Mamdani is pushing. Socialism, or democratic socialism, which is really Marxist ideology. So these people are promoting Marxist ideology and saying that Trump is the fascist. Really? You don't have a country if you don't protect your borders. And part of that is reducing the porosity of the border. And when people are in the country illegally, you need to kick them out. But there's so many of them that it's almost impossible to get rid of them all. So you get rid of the most dangerous ones. And they're protesting about getting rid of the most dangerous ones and some of the collaterals. What are they protesting about? How is Trump a fascist? How is Trump a fascist and trying to clean up a city that liberals can't clean up themselves? Because if there wasn't a problem, why would he be bringing in the National Guard? It makes no sense. They would have nothing to do. But obviously have they things to do. If they're bringing in ICE agents and rounding up illegals, guess what? That's because they're illegal and they're there. If they didn't have this problem, then the ICE agents wouldn't need to be there. But they have this problem. And the liberals will let this happen. So how is he a fascist? How is Trump a fascist? How is the ICE agents fascist? How is Trump a king when he listens to the Supreme Court, when some of his policies that he may have are struck down by the Supreme Court? How's that a fascist? You know what's fascist? You know what's fascist? Having the Biden administration and Barack Obama's administration weaponizing the DOJ, the FBI, and the CIA against American citizens. That's fascism. These people are stupid.
I was sorry, I was shaken by the no brassiere. You heard it here first. We on the bottom line have discovered the No King's motherlode of tomorrow's chants and songs, and they do go a little something like this. Neighbor, neighbor, can't you see? Medicare is what we need. And oh, these cuts have got to go. James?
Ain't no way we're backing down. We're rising up. The time is now. Behold, the party that's saving.
Are you noticing this? Are you noticing this? They're trying to make Trump seem like Nixon. They're trying to bring back kind of like this late 60s, early 70s protesting. You see this? This isn't by accident. You need to learn your history. This is not by accident. What did Nixon went after the universities, right? So they're trying to bring back kind of this hippie thing. It's kind of like hippie. The wing of the Democratic Party. I think it's really important that conservatives just push back on liberals. You know, you can be cordial, but you know, and the thing is that if someone's saying Trump is a dictator, how's he a dictator? I mean, we have balance of powers. He is abiding by the Supreme Court. He would be impeached if he wasn't abiding by the Supreme Court. All right. So how is he a dictator? We have balance of powers, and it's working. Our founding fathers set the system up, and it's working. So what's the issue? What exactly is the issue? How is he king? How is he a dictator? Getting rid of illegals is what makes him a dictator? Shutting down the government? And it's not really Trump shutting down the government. Who shut down the government is Congress. It was actually the Senate. I mean, Congress passed, the House passed a bill and the Senate didn't approve it. So it's really the legislative branch that's shutting down the government, technically. It's not Trump. And Trump's now saying, you know what? He's got the power to get rid of certain departments that he feels that should be unfunded. That's not being a dictator. How's he being a dictator? What exactly is he doing that's being a dictator? I don't know. I pay attention to this every day. How is he a dictator? How is he a king? We don't have kings. And his executive branch actually listens to the Supreme Court. If the Supreme Court rules that he's doing something illegal, he stops. How's he a king? No, it's all about perception. And then to create this hippie movement. And then it'll die down. They'll start the government back up again. And then we move on into next year, and that's the individuals running for the midterm elections, and they'll try to resurrect this in the summer. So you plant it you're planting the seeds in Q4, only for it to manifest in Q3 and Q4 of next year. That's what they're trying to do here. They're trying to plant the seeds of this kind of little hippie movement, kind of the super ultra liberal hippie movement, and then have it ramp up. And the Trump administration realizes, you know what? They're going to try to have some sort of BLM or anti-Trump rallying and burning down towns and stuff and getting angry during these midterm elections. But it's not yet. Not yet. There's just planting the seeds here. The No Kings rally. What a dumbass thing to say. How is he a king? How is he a king? If he was really a king, he would be impeached, no matter if there was a Republican or Democratic run House. But he's not. They don't even know their history, American history. They're not even paying attention to their American history. How is Trump a king? What exactly did he do that made him a king? Kings don't listen to the legislative branch. Kings don't listen to the judicial branch. You're telling me that the President of the United States has not paid attention to the Supreme Court? Really? How's he a king?
And shutdowns.
Let's bring in Arizona Congressman Andy Biggs to discuss all of this. We laugh. It's no laughing matter, Andy Biggs. So at least next week, the plan is, and this was put together by Senator Ron Johnson, is to force a vote on paying all of those essential workers who have been on the job but not getting paid for the government, and force the Democrats to vote against that. Yesterday, they already voted to defund our military, in essence. How do you think this is gonna go for them?
It's gonna go terribly. It's
Well,
not
they
because they're
continue-
illogical.
Yesterday's networks just won't meet the needs of tomorrow's AI. It was the point that we said, we're gonna need a bigger boat. We expect to triple.
Before we get his answer,
Well, they continue.
before we get his answer, please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the digestive enzyme complex. This will help you to break up carbohydrates, proteins, and lipids and reduce the stress on your pancreas. Super important. Clarity Factor is a great neurostack to help you to concentrate, gets rid of brain fog, and it allows you to concentrate on tasks at work and at home. Super important to take every day. Drink it with filtered water, and over time, you're going to improve that neuroplasticity so you're thinking faster and you have better memory. Resveratrol, super important to take for youthful gene expression. It also helps with soaking up free radicals and boosting up the health of the mitochondria so you have more energy. And this helps to improve the basal layer of your skin. So please go to my store, get the resveratrol, and it's a great way to slow down the aging process and have that youthful gene expression. Resveratrol also helps to get rid of senescent cells, super important. Stack it with C60, NAD+, or ubiquinol, or even Clarity Factor for added synergistic benefits. Vitamin D3 is a gene expression cofactor. Vitamin D3 also helps to get rid of cells that are, if they're infected, to go into apoptosis. So this is super important to take during the fall and the winter season. And vitamin D3 helps with cardiovascular health and bone density. An olive leaf extract helps with your immune system and helps you to control your lipid profile. Therefore, you'll have better cardiovascular health. So please go to my store, get these supplements, slow down the aging process, and to be prepared for the fall and winter season. Boost up that immune system. Use discount 5, you get $5 off any order. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. The link is in the description of this video and all my videos.
Play this game instead of getting down to work. And so they like you say, they said no to paying the military. My guess is they're going to say no to paying other essential workers, especially since some of those essential workers are going to be CBP and ICE, and they loathe CBP and ICE. And I think they're just going to keep pushing this. I think that, never forget that I think Chuck Schumer and the leaders in the Senate are very nervous about that I Hate America gang that's going to be rallying all over the country tomorrow. So they don't want that rally to be turned against them.
Congressman, speaking of the premise here, the no kings thing, it is odd, as Dagan was pointing out. I mean, this shutdown is being engineered by a party that doesn't control the White House and controls neither house of Congress. So it's really demonstrating the limits of presidential power and how much the framers gave even malingering, angry minority factions in the Congress to stop the government if they choose.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Dagan and James, this is the irony of it, isn't it? That people like from the Communist Party or the Democrats, socialists that seem to prefer dictators and authoritarians around the world, they don't have their speech stifled. They get to go out, they get to speak out, and they get to actually, as a minority, slow down and basically stop payment of government functions, which means that you reduce government functions as well. So in a weird way, they're contributing, I hope, ultimately to the restoration of federalism by shrinking the size and scope of federal government, which I hope is where we're going to go.
I had a family member call me this morning and say, well, if President Trump was an authoritarian, as he is accused of being, wouldn't he just reopen the government and just do what he wanted to do? And I went, yeah, potentially, but this is on the Democrats. They are the ones who shut this down. And I have to note, bless her heart, Senator Mazie Hirono, she said this: the shutdown could be a lot shorter if you, meaning the House, and Speaker Johnson actually showed up to do your job and called the House back in session. And as Senator Mike Lee pointed out, the House is literally not the problem, Maisie. The House has done its part, passed a continuing resolution. And it's the people who are blocking the funding of the government and keeping the government shut down and making sure people are not being paid are her ilk. It is Macy Hirono and the Democratic senator, but of course she doesn't really understand civics.
Yeah, it's a sad case, isn't it, that the Democrats in the Senate don't quite understand that we're required to actually advance it from the House, which we did, and now they're supposed to respond to it in the Senate, and they're choosing not to respond to it in the Senate. But look, we're going to grant Senator Hirono and some of the other Democrat senators a little pass because I'm not sure they understand how the process works yet. Hopefully they'll catch it before they leave the Senate, but right now they don't seem to understand it. It is.
I personally think that this is a seed that they're starting to plant to have more orchestrated rallies across the country during the midterm elections in 2026 in the summer, and they're trying to have it like the summer of love. There's some sort of hippie thing they're going to try to bring out. Now the question is will Americans be stupid enough to fall for it or not? Fucking crazy liberals.
It takes another 5 Democrats to walk over and vote with Republicans, then you'll see government open up again.
Congressman, I wanted to ask you, you mentioned some of the radical groups involved in this. Senator Cruz tweeting out today a poster apparently for the event that includes the Communist Party logo in it. Now, so if accurate, these are people who have supported tyrants much worse than kings. I mean,
now think about it.
They're on record.
Right. Exactly. Marxists, Leninists, communists. Do you think that they're for the will of the people? Or does it really just behold a powerful dictator in a one-party government run by oligarchs? And that's the Democratic Party and what they want. They want communism. So we really should have a rally or protest against no Marxism, no Democrats. And so you have Mamdani that potentially will win the election this year for the mayoral race in New York City. And they're going to try to have this protest culture, this hippie protest culture during the summer of next year going into the midterm election. And they're going to think that they're going to have democratic socialism sweep the country and switch the power of the legislative branch. I don't think that will work, but I think that's what they're setting up for.
And over again, what is this about?
Well, this really is. That's why the No Kings rally is a misnomer. They probably wordsmithed that somewhere, did a poll test or something. It looks like it may be partially funded by George Soros Foundation. At least you get indivisible groups on there as well. But I mean, you're right. I mean, you got the Democrat Socialists of New York. You got the Communist Party. They support absolute totalitarianism. It's not just authoritarianism. They are supporting totalitarianism. Apparently, they think that they would be exempt where that totalitarianism come here. But it just gets back to the same point that Dagan and James you've been making. That this, quite frankly, is not a freedom rally. This is a tyranny rally. They're rallying for tyranny.
Yeah. The normal everybody freedom rally is called the 4th of July, where we celebrate actual not having a king. Congressman Andy Biggs, great to see you.
Thank you much.
Enterprise data teams are facing a turning point. Regulations are tightening, AI is reshaping the data landscape, and budgets are under immense pressure. Existing data integration platforms weren't built.
Please go to my store.
SaaS open tools.
Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and take the stack to help with your cardiovascular health, boost up your immune system, and help with your brain function. Especially for the fall and winter season, it's very important to boost up that immune system. So please take the stack for the fall and winter. But you'll get added benefits if you take it year-round to slow down the aging process. Turmeric will soak up free radicals and bring down inflammation. Ashwagandha root is going to help you to control your blood glucose levels and your cortisol levels. Lignans will help with your immune system, your endocrine system, bring down inflammation and soak up free radicals. When you stack this together, what you're doing is you're bringing down inflammation, you're soaking up free radicals. That's going to help your immune system. That's going to help your cardiovascular system and reduce plaque formation. And by bringing down inflammation and soaking up free radicals at the cerebral level, you're helping with your neurons. You're helping with brain function. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, boost up this immune system to fight the fall and winter season. Please go to my store, use discount 5 to get $5 off any order.
Show a little bit more from the Bolton indictment here. On or about July 15, 2018, his wife and daughter text Bolton, "Do we get a diary today?" Bolton responds, "Don't think I can do it on this trip." Bolton later added, "Too much going on. I've done much of Friday in London because I don't want to take too many notes and wanted to get it down before I forgot." Days later, Bolton writes, "More stuff coming," sending a 24-page document described what he learned while National Security Advisor. Less than 3 hours later, he sends his wife and daughter a follow-up message saying, "None of which we talk about." In response, one of the two responding with, Victor Davis Hanson, senior fellow at the scene.
It's totally illegal. What he did was totally illegal.
It seems like this is a pretty big deal. And obviously there's a lot of talk of it being political. And certainly there's no reason why the Trump administration would not come down on Bolton. What do you make of this?
Well, I've been listening to him, and you know what's fascinating is I haven't heard one time that he said, "I categorically did not transmit classified information through email. I categorically deny that I ever did." He hasn't said that. He said everything but that. So he really hasn't denied what he did. And then the second thing, I think you were really right to point out that the more he felt that he could affect the 2020 election, the more he doubled down. And finally, he was almost saying to the nation, Joe Biden owes me, and he's the more emphatic I can be about Trump's culpability and how he's going to go to jail and his career, the more I get exempt myself from my own behavior. These people will never indict me. And as he said, he thought that Trump's career was over with and he'd be in jail. So the way he was thinking,
thought he could get away with it.
Transmit this freely. I know it's wrong. He hasn't denied it.
He thought he could get, the thing was, the deep state and these individuals that were using lawfare against Trump and people around him, they thought that they were able to get away with it because they didn't think that Trump would come back as president of the United States. And the deep state was so worried that it looks like they tried to assassinate them. All right. So, these individuals in the deep state, in the administrative state, they really think they're above the law. You see it in the eyes of Brennan. Look at what's going on with Bolton. So it's time for a president to come in and say, enough is enough with this deep state horse shit. And we're going to clean up the mess, and this is never going to happen again to a future president, ever. Democrat, Republican, third party president, it doesn't matter. The deep state needs to die.
But the Biden administration, and I'm going to get on TV and remind the Biden administration how I've served them, and I'm never going to be held accountable because they're in charge. Kamala Harris is going to win. Donald Trump is never going to be in office again.
You know what's interesting? You know what's interesting about Victor Davis Hanson? At first, I didn't. I didn't really gravitate to him with his commentary. Now he's a historian, but I have started to learn to appreciate where he's coming from. And I saw this roundtable for the Hoover Institute where they were discussing politics and the Trump's administration And was Trump a consequential president? All right. And Neil Ferguson, who's I appreciate his work. I've always appreciated his work. I started listening to Neil Ferguson right when he issued his first book, which was The Ascent of Money. So I started gravitating to him during the Lehman crash. So that was like 2008. I read his book in 2009, The Ascent of Money, which is a great book. And I've read many of his books. I haven't read all 16 or plus books that but I listened to a lot of his lectures. All right. And I wish I was able to take one of his courses at Harvard when he was a professor at Harvard. That would have been really cool. But he left Harvard and he went to Stanford. And then, he started his own university in Texas, all right, to compete with Harvard. It's interesting. He's part of a group of people with tech bros that are actually trying to create a new Harvard, all right? And it's pretty fascinating what he's doing. But Victor was on that panel, and I don't remember the name of I don't recall the name of the other historian. The other historian was a little bit more liberal. Victor comes from a conservative point of view. Neil Ferguson's coming from a conservative point of view. What is interesting, though, is that Victor, he gives that sense of common sense historical perspective. Neil Ferguson's Oxford kind of, ivory tower type. But Victor, he can bring it to the normal level for people to understand why this is important. So I've grown to appreciate his style of explaining to the public current events and why it's important. I still gravitate to Neil Ferguson because of the scholarly aspect to it. The history and economics, I appreciate Neil Ferguson. But Victor is actually, I'm actually impressed with him being able to bring it to a level where individuals can understand why this is important and you need to get engaged and get on the battlefield or get on the football field here. He's got that Midwest kind of Southern. There's a Midwest sensibility or Southern sensibility about his personality that I appreciate.
Yeah, astute. He bet on the wrong horse every time he did it, and he's gonna have to pay the price.
When Trump turned into a rocket ship there in early 2024, it got so popular, and we could all just feel that coming. And then he got shot in the ear, and then it just seemed like what could possibly stop this from happening this second term for him. And you wonder. I mean, I imagine him sitting there watching those election results come in on 2024 November, and you wonder do you think he began lobbying for a pardon from the Biden White House before they left?
I think he did, but he's not stupid, and he knows that there was a time when he was considered the Prince of Darkness by the left. Not that they liked him; they found him as a useful tool. And when he was done, when that tool was over with, they dispensed with him. That he was no longer valuable to. The irony was that the Trump administration said that he had been taking classified information, and it was in his memoir, and they went to federal court to stop that. And a federal judge said, well, it's too late. The book is out, but I want to warn you, John Bolton, that what you did was not in the interest of the United States, and you're going to expose yourself at a future date to criminal and civil liability. He was warned by a federal judge.
Yeah.
And so it's just a clear cut, did he do it or not? And so far, and I think I've listened to every statement he's made, he's been very careful not to say, I did it, but there was reasons for it. And he's done, I think he's in trouble.
He's self-serving.
And
that's the problem. Bolton was self-serving.
And never did. They just found him useful, and he did a lot of damage to the United States by doing that. He's not going to win people over on the conservative side either. He's a person without any friends or allies.
Right. Yeah. He's all alone in this. Is the biggest thing. And he's 76 years old, and he's
pleading not guilty, but it sounds like he doesn't have any defense for the actual charges laid out in the indictment.
None.
Victor Davis Hanson, we appreciate you coming on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the heirloom barley. Heirloom barley will bring down inflammation, soak up free radicals through superoxide dismutase, and detoxify your body. When you're detoxifying your body and bringing down inflammation on a regular basis, your body performs better. Your immune system, your endocrine system, even your brain function. And you're reducing the chances of building up plaque, because when you bring down inflammation at the vascular level, you are slowing down the LDL from oxidizing. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the heirloom barley. Super important to take. Get healthy. This is a great way to lower your healthcare costs. Because guess what? The healthier you are, the less dependent you are on a physician. C60. C60 is a very potent antioxidant. I've been taking C60 since 2016. Take a teaspoon a day every day, preferably on an empty stomach. But take it every day. If you work out, take it before your workout to soak up the free radicals that you're generating during your workout, and you'll notice that you recover quicker from your workout. Now, C60 will soak up free radicals at the cellular level, also at the vascular level, at the cerebral level, even in the extracellular matrix. And when you do that, you're allowing for your tissues to perform better and your organ systems to perform better. That will mean that your immune system and your endocrine system, your other organ systems will perform better, even your brain. By soaking up free radicals at the vascular level, you're reducing that concentration of oxidized LDL. And when you're reducing that concentration, you're reducing plaque formation. Super important. And C60 will help with the basal layer of your skin. So your skin will be healthier. By soaking up those free radicals, those adult stem cells at the basal layer of your skin that are rejuvenating skin cells will be healthier. You'll notice the effects of C60 within 2 months. But if you take this for a year and you compare a before and after of the way you will look younger in 1 year. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. It is really important to soak up free radicals. So please go to my store, get this C60, get it in a 2 ounce, a 4 ounce, or an 8 ounce configuration. The higher ounce configuration is cheaper per ounce. You can get it in avocado oil, in extra virgin olive oil, and MCT coconut oil. Go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get healthy. And an added benefit with C60 is that you're going to improve your brain function. Why? Because by soaking up free radicals at the cerebral level, you're reducing the stress on the neuron, you're boosting up your ATP in your neuron, you'll be able to produce more neurotransmitters, and over time, you'll have better positive neuroplasticity. When you have better positive neuroplasticity, you will think faster and you will have better memory. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the C60. I've been taking this every day since 2016, and I'm in my 50s. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Use discount 5, all caps, discount 5, and you will get $5 off. That's the end of my transmission. Thank you for listening. Make sure you go to my store. The link is in the description of this video, and get the great products. I want you to get healthy in 2025 and in 2026. And make sure that you are preparing for the fall and the winter season. It will be problematic, but if you mitigate early, you reduce the effects. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Thank you for listening and have a nice day.